Coming up on this episode, why Charles Bassey has given Steve Kerr and Golden State a massive problem after his latest performance, the Warrior rotation experiment that's sure to come to an end, and why a dream trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo in the offseason may already be over. Thursday's game between the Warriors and the Lakers may have honestly been one of the worst I've seen all season. The only potential positive for Golden State out of this game was another strong performance from Charles Bassey, who has now given the Warriors a difficult but good problem to have as Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford prepare to return to the lineup. Bassey had 12 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 blocks on Thursday against the Lakers in what resulted as a 119-103 defeat. His second straight double-double in just 3 games with the Warriors, having gone for, 14 and 12 rebounds on Sunday against the Sacramento Kings. Bassey has been huge for the Warriors here, delivering major impact. His interior presence on both ends of the floor has been terrific, and particularly in the first half of this game where the game was actually on the line and the Warriors were kind of close. The second half, he was a little bit more disappointing, as the Warriors were. But I tell you what, playing as a center with some of that guard play, particularly in the second half when you're playing with like Pat Spencer and stuff like that, pretty difficult. Pretty difficult to really be that good. And I think there were plenty of times during that game where Charles Bassey was lost on the pick and roll a little bit, where teammates could have found him rolling to the rim or at the rim for lobs, stuff like that. So he could have had an even better game. The way he was inhaling rebounds in the first half was quite incredible. Came straight off the bench in the first quarter. Had a couple of putback layups. I think he had 4 and 4 in like the first couple of minutes he was on the floor, essentially. I've said it after his performance against the Kings, the compliment that he provides the Warriors in terms of their center rotation, and obviously having the spacing threats of Quinn Post, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis. It's going to be really interesting to see here what happens on Friday as the Warriors prepare to go to Sacramento to face the Kings, and then perhaps more notably on Sunday in what will be the final play-in tournament tune-up, I suppose, in the regular season finale against the LA Clippers. Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford are set to return, or at least Steve Kerr announced prior and following Thursday's game against the Lakers that veteran pair, that he's hopeful of that veteran pair being back in the lineup on Friday against the Kings. So I would suggest that based on these last 2 games, Charles Bassey deserves rotation minutes. Again, the interior presence that he can provide, just having a guy that can inhale rebounds like that, that's not what Porzingis or Horford or Post do. Like they are okay rebounders, but like Porzingis is averaging 5 rebounds a game for the Warriors in his 13 appearances. Like, for a 7-2 guy, that's not great, right? Like they are all 3 of them. Like Horford's a reasonable rebounder, I suppose. Post earlier in the season showing a little bit more capacity in that area, but not a great rebounder. Like Charles Bassey goes up and gets boards. And having a guy that is going to be a pretty constant double-double threat, like he's going to, as I said, inhale rebounds. And then offensively, he only scored 12 points in this game. He's going to get a couple of putbacks here and there. And I think playing alongside, if he was playing lineups with Steph, just better players. Just put him in lineups with better players, and he's going to get more easy looks, essentially, to finish around the rim. So I am fascinated to see what Steve Kerr does here with the center rotation, because I think he deserves minutes. Again, I think he'll be better playing alongside better players, as most role players are, obviously. But how does Steve Kerr reintegrate Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis in alongside Charles Bassey? Does the honeymoon period here over the first 3 games come to an end? We saw him get less than 10 minutes when Porzingis was available on Sunday against the Rockets. Now you've got Porzingis and Horford available. Are those nearly 30 minutes that he's got in each of the last 2 games is going to completely disappear? Surely they can't. Surely this guy has shown enough with 2 straight double-doubles to suggest that he should be in the rotation here. But I'm not exactly sure that's the case, because if you've got Porzingis and you've got Horford and you've got Draymond Green playing small ball 5 minutes, where does that leave Charles Bassey and his opportunity? Because I'm assuming the Warriors will want to ramp Porzingis and Horford up here pretty quickly. Like they've got very little runway. They have to do it straight away. Like surely Porzingis and Horford are probably both playing 18 to 20 minutes at least each on Friday against the Kings. So all of a sudden, that's 40 minutes. If you're only playing one of them at each time, that leaves, 8 minutes? Maybe you want to play Draymond at a small ball 5 for some minutes as well. Like, is Charles Bassey just going to go straight back to being a DNP? I don't think that's deserved, but this is why it's a good problem to have for Steve in terms of he's got another center rotation option here. So if Horford or Porzingis are in foul trouble, or God forbid one of them gets injured, which honestly is probably a good chance of happening, to be fair. And that's why, like, with only 2 games left in the regular season, like, in an ideal world, you'd bring Horford back and only play him like 15 minutes in his return, hasn't played for a month, and you give Bassey some more opportunity. But, like, at this point, you might as well say, all right, Horford, KP, go out there, give us 20 minutes each, essentially, at least. And if you get injured, well, that's kind of your season done, right? You can't really ease them back in with 2 games left in the regular season. Kind of is what it is at this point when you're having to go through the playing tournament and you're going to have to win 2 straight elimination games on the road, right? Like, you just got to see what you've got with those 2 guys, and if they get injured, so be it. But where does that leave Charles Bassey? The easiest answer to this is we'll play more double big lineups. I think the best combination is probably going to be Horford and Bassey. Like, I would like Horford's minutes to almost be exclusively at the 4. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is the Warriors are kind of lacking forward wing options right now. So playing bigger at the 4-5, I think is needed. Like, we saw Pat Spencer at 6'2" start at small forward today. Like, the Warriors started Pods, Melton, and Pat Spencer with Draymond at the 5 at 6'5", just like a laughable starting lineup. So without Jimmy, without Moses, Gee is under an injury cloud. He's missed the last 2 games out with a pelvic contusion. I would like Al Horford. Perhaps you also help him physically a little bit by putting him at the 4. I think compared to Porzingis, like, Horford has a little bit more mobility out on the perimeter. He's probably not going to get as lost as Porzingis. Like, Porzingis wants to hang around the rim. So does Bassey, mind you. That was probably one of the negatives that I saw from Bassey's game in this one against the Lakers. Just wants to play drop coverage. And, like, a lot of big men want to do that, but that's not necessarily how the Warriors operate too much. Like, didn't really close. Like, there was a Jake LaRavia corner 3. He just didn't close out to whatsoever, and LaRavia knocked it down. Like, he just wants to sit around the paint and eat rebounds, which there's a value in that, right? But at some point, it's like, all right, we also need you to close out and, close out some of these shooters on the perimeter, particularly if teams are going to play 5 out. So there's going to be situations where he probably just doesn't play at all. But you have to see what it looks like, I think, with a double big lineup of Horford and Bassey, because Bassey gives you that interior presence. We know Horford almost exclusively offensively lives beyond the arc, particularly when, like, Steph's playing. There's other times when Steph was out, like that period, once Steph got injured to when Horford got injured, like, there was a few more, like, post-up and stuff for Horford, because it's like, well, we don't really have too much else in terms of offense that we can go to here. So an Al Horford post-up isn't the worst idea, particularly if he's got a mismatch. But with Steph out there, he's going to space the floor. He's more mobile and better equipped to kind of guard guys on the perimeter than I think Porzingis is. We saw Porzingis and Bassey for, like, a very brief moment on Sunday against the Rockets. I don't think we're going to necessarily see too much of that again, because both of them defensively kind of want to hang around the interior and hang around the paint. But Horford, I could see a Horford and Bassey combination, right? That's what I'm envisaging here in terms of the potential of getting Charles Bassey minutes with the Horford and Porzingis return. However, in saying that, Steve Kerr doesn't generally like to go to double big lineups too much. So, especially, they're going to play Sacramento tomorrow, and Sacramento without Sabonis, they're going to go up against Dylan Cardwell and Maxime Reynaud. Like, not Goliaths in the paint, are they? Really, like, Reynaud's been excellent this season, his rookie year, but let's be honest, it's not Wemby out there, it's not Nikola Jokic or anything like that. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with Charles Bassey. I would love to see him get more opportunity here over these next 2 games and potentially playing in double big lineups, especially with Horford. But unfortunately, I think us as fans could be left frustrated because Steve Kerr is probably going to lean more on Horford and Porzingis and Draymond. And we could be seeing some DNPs for Charles Bassey moving forward here as he finishes out his 10-day contract. Thursday's game was genuinely a hard one to watch sometimes. The Warriors were without 8 players. They were without Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, obviously their 3 centers. the Lakers without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. LeBron James really the only star, I suppose, in the game. And the whole game was typified, I think, by one player. Malavai Leones was quite comical at times. And if you didn't watch the game, and honestly, I wouldn't, if you didn't watch the game, I wouldn't tell you to go back and rewatch it. Not worth it, to be honest. But if you just look at the box score from this game, you saw Malavai Leones had 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 of 8 shooting from the floor. You think, oh yeah, like reasonable Malavai Leones game, right? Got opportunity. We know he's been dealing with the wrist sprain. So I don't want to turn this into some kind of disrespectful discussion on Malavai Leones, and like he's an elite athlete, professional NBA player at the end of the day. So who am I to sit here and like really rip into him? In saying that, he had some moments on Thursday night where I was just like, I tweeted out, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, how are we, it really sums up Golden State's season that we've got to the 80th game of the season, and this dude from the Netherlands is playing like 30 minutes. Like, how have we wound up in this position? Because he was just doing some things where it was like, he looked like a chicken with his head cut off. Right. And he looked like a baby giraffe just trying to stand. Right. Like all over the place, just fumbling had a couple of times where he only got credited for 2 turnovers in this game, but it felt like he fumbled the ball on countless occasions. And then when he does fumble and there's kind of a loose ball, feels like there's no one else you'd back against more than Malavai Leones to get a loose ball. Just feels like he never comes. There's a couple of times where I felt like him and LeBron, like the ball was right there. It's like LeBron just got it every time. And it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be surprised it's LeBron James. But Malavai Leones feels like he just won't get a 50-50 ball like almost ever, which maybe I'm being a bit harsh because there are actually moments a couple of months ago when he kind of first emerged into the rotation in Golden State. Was at a game in Memphis, I think it was, where I was actually really impressed. I was like, this guy could actually have something. You understand, like, he's got the traits of being 6'9", long wingspan, but I'm not sure the basketball smarts are there. I was having a really interesting discussion with a mate yesterday talking about, like, elite athletes can make it to the professional level based on just, like, their physical skill set more than anything, and be really great just by their physical skill set without actually understanding the nuances of the game or just understanding the nuances of sport in general. And Leo's, it's just, I don't really know how to describe it aside from it was comical at times on Thursday. And the fortunate thing here is I don't want to be too disrespectful, but the fortunate thing is here for the Warriors that this experiment of him as a prospect is at least going to be shelved for the moment, because the Warriors are getting guys back on Friday against the Kings. They are, they are going to get back Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford. I'm assuming Guy was questionable for this game against the Lakers, so I'm assuming he's going to be close to returning. Will Richards now missed a couple of games with the back issue. He was supposed to start last game, and then was laid out. Then was out from the jump against the Lakers here, so I'm assuming he might be back. But this is kind of, again, summed up where the Warriors' injuries are at, and also their injuries at like the wing forward positions. And this is why you've kind of had to lean on Malavai Leones a bit, because you just don't have any other options. Like, he has to play. And if you want to, like, I'm kind of surprised he didn't start the game because, again, the Warriors are so bereft of options of like the 3-4 position to the point where, suddenly we're starting Pat Spencer alongside a 6'3", 6'4" Brandon Podziemski and a 6'2" DeAnthony Melton. Like, we're starting so small because we just don't have any other options. And Malavai Leones, God bless him, shouldn't be good enough to be in the starting lineup anyway. And the Warriors are going to get reinforcements here, but the facts are that Moses Moody is out for the season. Jimmy Butler is out for the season. We know the Gay injury. We know the Horford injury. We know Porzingis is always a health question mark. We know the Warriors traded Jonathan Kuminga, who would, if Jonathan Kuminga is still on this team, then he might as well have played all 48 minutes in this game, and Malavai Leones can be a DNP or play 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever else, rather than seeing a whole lot of Leones. So this is just the reality of the situation the Warriors have found themselves in. But hopefully over these last 2 games, I would be like, I'll give you guys all, everyone that comments on this video, I'll give you all $10 if Malavalione plays a single second of legitimate minutes that aren't garbage time for the rest of the season. Like dead set for the rest of the season. I don't think we will get legitimate, meaningful Malavalione minutes in the first three quarters of any game for the rest of the season. I'm just putting my hat down on that one. Like I just don't think we're going to see it. And fortunately, we get to go from Malavalione to Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. Steph Curry's going to be back on Friday against the Kings. Hopefully, Guy Santos as well. And we don't have to worry about some of that comical basketball that we saw on Thursday against the Kings. What does it mean for him moving forward? Obviously, he's still eligible for a two-way contract at the end of the season or going into next season. This is his second year in the league because he had a year with the Thunder. So, look, two-way contracts are two-way contracts at the end of the day. But I think there has to be someone else because he's not super young either. It's not like he's a prospect who's 18, 19. You could kind of understand some of the comical stuff that goes on. Whereas I said, he kind of looks like a baby giraffe just learning to walk for the first time. So there has to be another prospect out there that the Warriors can look at on a two-way contract. Nate Williams is not eligible for a two-way contract next season, so he's not part of the mix. LJ Cryer is, and LJ Cryer is just he's just clearly a better basketball player than Malavalione, so I'm assuming he'll be on a two-way contract again. Pat Spencer, ironically, is also eligible to be back. This is his third year in the league, which means he's eligible for one more year on a two-way contract. Would the Warriors go back to him on a two-way after converting his contract, not only this season, but also last season? I doubt it. I actually am not convinced Pat Spencer will be on this roster next season. So, I don't know. We'll wait and see where the Warriors land with Malavalione moving forward, but they may have seen enough in these recent games, as reasonable as his box score numbers actually suggested. And, I'm not for a second questioning his effort. He got a couple of offensive rebounds. He's trying to put himself in the right spot at times. It just, if I were the Lakers out there were a couple of times, LeBron looked at him and was like, who's this guy? Who are you putting up against me here? And it's just it's tough. It's tough because he's just trying to do his best, right? And I can't diss anyone for that. But right now, he's not an NBA player. And again, fortunately, we shouldn't be seeing those minutes again for the rest of the season. But good luck to him, whatever happens with his future. If he's back on a two-way contract with the Warriors next season, I'm honestly, hopefully, he gets heaps of reps in the G League in Santa Cruz and can kind of polish up some of his game, right? And then get a good stretch in the G League and come back and potentially become a rotation player for the Warriors. While you're on the team, I wish you the best of luck and support you, and I want the best for you. But quite clearly right now, Malavalione is not an NBA player. We know the Warriors are going to go star hunting again this offseason. I don't think I'm going out on a limb by suggesting that Giannis Antetokounmpo will probably remain top of their wish list after we know Golden State went hard after the two-time MVP before February's trade deadline. Honestly, though, I think the Warriors might need to end their pursuit for Giannis before the offseason even begins. We had a major report from ESPN's Shams Charania earlier in the week detailing the deteriorating relationship between Giannis and the Bucks. Obviously, Giannis wants to play right now, but hasn't been cleared by the Bucks. There's huge internal debate over that between player and franchise to the point where there's been an investigation by the NBA into Antetokounmpo's playing status and the NBA's participation policy and everything else. But really, from a Golden State standpoint, we're looking at this and thinking, well, are we going to see a renewed interest in a trade during the offseason? Is Giannis Antetokounmpo going to be gettable? I think he's absolutely going to be gettable. I expect the trade to happen in the offseason. Unfortunately, I just don't think it will be at the Warriors. And the reason I say that is because within this report from Shams earlier in the week, some interesting detail on the kind of discussions the Bucks had with rival teams before the trade deadline, where we know there was plenty of speculation linking Giannis to a move to the Warriors. The Miami Heat were also involved. It's where I want to land here with the Heat, and a direct quote from Shams in this report where he wrote, "Team sources said the Bucks seriously considered the Heat's offer, which centered on Tyler Hero, Kel'el Ware, other players, and multiple draft picks and pick swaps. Milwaukee contemplated moving forward with Miami on February 4. Ownership, however, believed the best move would be to hold on to Antetokounmpo and receive better offers in the summer. So, aside from the Warriors getting mentioned as a team that was having discussions with the Bucks before the deadline, there was nothing here in relation to Golden State's offer and what that could have potentially been and how close they potentially were to landing Giannis. And this would suggest that if they weren't the number one team before the deadline in terms of offers that the Bucks were listening to for Giannis, how are they possibly going to be the team that can land him in the offseason? I was always under the impression and the thought that if the Warriors were going to land Giannis, they had to strike before the deadline because they had arguably the best offer, I thought, at least in terms of a picks-based package. They certainly had the best offer in terms of a picks-based package, not only because they had the most picks to give up, but also because as an older veteran team, the value of their future first-round picks are going to be far higher than other teams. So I thought they had to strike before the deadline, which obviously made it disappointing when they didn't. And now getting to the offseason, I'm not even sure what the deal looks like from a Golden State standpoint in trying to get Giannis. And I'm not sure how the Bucks will come to a decision that, hey, yeah, the Warriors have the best offer on the table here. Because if they didn't have the best offer and Milwaukee were more interested in Miami's offer before the deadline, I don't know how the Warriors could possibly change that, honestly. And so if I were the Warriors right now and I'm contemplating what I'm going to do in the offseason, what you can't do is put all your eggs in the Giannis basket. You cannot do that because this report from Shams tells you that Milwaukee had more interest in Miami's offer than they did Golden State's. So the only way this could change, in my opinion, is if the Warriors luck out at the lottery and suddenly move up from where they're currently projected, which is the 11th overall pick, to a top 4 pick. Because if you have a top 4 pick on the table and you can get one of, Dibanster, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, if you can get one of those 4 guys, if you're Milwaukee, right, then you start to think a little bit differently about the value that each team is presenting you in a Giannis trade. Because if you've got that and you combine that, maybe the Warriors also offer up another 3 first-round picks and perhaps, what are they going to have, something like 5 to trade, I think, in the summer? So, the Warriors will still have a package where it's like, that makes sense for Giannis and that's probably fair value for Giannis. But I just think other teams could go above and beyond. We know Miami. I think Miami are going to have another 2 first-round picks, about 2 more first-round picks to trade. The Knicks are going to have, I think, 1 or 2 more future first-round picks to trade. They are going to come into it. We know they are the one team that Giannis has looked at previously in terms of going back to last offseason. The Lakers are a kind of sneaky team here. I think they might have 3 first-round picks to trade. So there are going to be offers that come here for Giannis that are massive and could be bigger than the Warriors just saying, here's our 4 or 5 first-round picks. Because what have the Warriors got in the way of young players? Really, Pods is a nice piece. I've spoken about it on last episode. Brandon Podziemski is a good young NBA player. He's not a blue-chip prospect. And I think a team like the Bucks would still probably be buying into the potential of Kel'el Ware as a prospect, even though you'd say Brandon Podziemski. If I was banking on someone to have a 12-year NBA career, I'd probably take Pods. I think he has a higher floor. But if I want to go for the ceiling prospect, then I think there's no doubt Kel'el Ware has higher upside than Brandon Podziemski. So the Warriors can't really, they don't really have a whole lot in the way of young players, aside from getting lucky at the lottery, getting a top 4 pick, and then that changes the equation. And then if you're the Warriors, are you willing to give that up for Giannis, a guy that's injury prone? Obviously, no questions asked, you would have to have an agreement that an extension is in place. You are not trading a top 4 pick. You are not trading multiple first-round picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo with only 1 year guaranteed left on his contract without an assurance an extension would take place and that extension would come at the first possible moment, like we saw with Jimmy Butler when that trade happened last February to the Warriors. Trade goes down, then 5 minutes later we hear the news Jimmy Butler's signed a new 2-year, $110 million contract extension or whatever it was. So that would have to be in place. The other potential factor here, in fact, not just a potential factor, a huge factor in this, is where Giannis wants to go. I'm not convinced Giannis would look at Golden State and say, I want to play there over everywhere else. And like, that's the only place I want to play. Maybe he gives the Bucks a short list of teams, maybe 3 or 4 teams around the league. Maybe one of those teams doesn't even have a possibility of getting Giannis. Maybe the Warriors are on that short list of teams. But again, like Miami are probably going to be on there as well. New York probably going to be on there. The Lakers might be on there. And suddenly you're going to get probably outbid by one of those teams. The only possible thing from a Warrior perspective is if Giannis says, I only want to go to the Warriors. Okay, which again, I don't think is going to happen. But if it did, then suddenly you're talking about an equation where if he makes it known within league circles that I only want to go to the Warriors, well, Miami, New York, Los Angeles, every other team, all 28 other teams, not including the Warriors and the Bucks, are going to pull out of the conversation and say, well, we're not going to give up a huge trade package like Miami. We're not going to give up Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, and 3 or 4 first-round picks for a guy that doesn't want to sign an extension here and could opt out of his player option and leave us in free agency in 2027. So if I'm the Warriors, I'm sitting back and thinking the first thing is to see what happens, assuming they don't make the playoffs, see what happens at the draft lottery. And secondly, we shouldn't even be contemplating discussions with Milwaukee at any point until we get some kind of evidence from Giannis and say so from Giannis that he wants to play at the Warriors. Because if we don't get that, then one, we don't want to be giving up a huge amount for a guy that could leave us in 12 months. And two, well, I just don't think we have enough anyway to go and get him if it was a highest bidder wins scenario, which again, I don't think it will be because I think Giannis will have a significant say in his future given his contract situation. I'm just doubting whether the Warriors can get this done. The other question mark is, what are the matching salaries? What does the deal even look like from a salary perspective? Because Draymond Green, if he opts into this player option, then sure, he could be part of the trade, but I don't think he will. I think he'll opt out and sign a multi-year deal at a lower annual number, and that takes him out of being traded. Kristaps Porzingis is a free agent. There could be some kind of sign and trade, I suppose, but like if Porzingis re-signs, which I actually like the idea of a Giannis Porzingis front court, to be honest. If Porzingis resigns, he can't be part of the trade. Do you have to have the conversation again about Jimmy Butler? Because that's the obvious cleanest move is it's Jimmy Butler and all the picks and maybe pods and whatnot for Giannis. Would Milwaukee do that? Again, maybe they would if the picks were like obviously all on the table and if Giannis said, I only want to go to the Warriors. That's kind of, and if they were put into a corner, right, backs against the wall. And that was the only thing they could possibly get because Giannis didn't want to go anywhere else. You might have to have the conversation on Jimmy Butler again, which is going to be a tough one to have, but I don't know how else the Warriors would get this done. So just when I read that report from Shams, I thought, I don't know how a Giannis deal gets done, and maybe the Warriors should turn their attention to a guy like Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James as a free agent, something like that. Going to finish it up there, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. Let me know your thoughts on anything that I've spoken about and discussed on this podcast episode, and I'll see you on the next one.